not only are you able to make networks, you are able to get help from each other. All these classes go live streamed on YouTube. You can get the link from each other. If you're on WhatsApp, unfortunately, I am not on WhatsApp. Hi, Kankat. Good afternoon. If you're on WhatsApp, then you can get the link to all the classes. All the classes are live streamed. Again, in case you want to get in touch with me, my email ID I share on the class. That's my email ID. I'm on the chat. People who are joining for the first time, uh, you can stop me at any moment of time to, ask a question, or if you have some anecdote or some information that you want to share, you can do that. In fact, just a quick before we start the class, last time when we did the difference between trafficking and smuggling, one more difference between trafficking and smuggling is that smuggling is normally across national borders. Trafficking is not. Trafficking can be internal within a country. So that's also another difference. Okay. Uh, uh,
Sir, you are host.
okay. Thank you very much, Firoz. If you want, you can leave.
Thank you.
Okay. So today we are doing the economic determinants in migration and diaspora. Last time we were doing the demographic ones. In fact, hang on. Okay. Are you able to see my screen? Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we are doing the economic determinants here, and in fact, I came across this slide, which is a slide on demographic and economic. Okay, thanks, Priyanka. Demographic and economic determinants of migration. And this is, this was a paper written by Nicole Simpson of Colgate University, US. So if you see, there are these pros and there are cons. And if you see both in pros and cons, there are a lot of economic determinants. Income. Okay. I stopped to see the chat. Okay. So tax, these are all economic, microeconomic. Uh, Migration cost is again an economic determinant. And the rest of it are non-economic determinants. Inevitably, whenever migration happens, migration is not a single determinant factor. There are multiple factors which determine people to take a decision on migrating or not to migrate. There are multiple factors. So we are looking at the economic determinants. This is a slide on pros and cons of demographic and economic determinants. The objective being meaning and concept of economic determinants, role and importance of economic determinants. And more often than not, we see that largely when we talk, we do bring out economics as a most important thing, but obviously there are non-economic determinants which also come into the picture when taking a decision. In fact, every decision that we take on everyday life even has both economic and non-economic determinants. So, migrants' decision cannot be attributed to any single factor. As we all know, it's outcome of various set of factors. Never ever is there a deterministic way in human decision making. And every time we kind of tend to read news items or news stories which attribute a determinant to anything, obviously that's a reductionist way because inevitably there are multiple factors human beings consider whenever they take decision. It could be a decision of as simple a decision of what to eat, a complicated decision like buying a house, buying a car, or a further complicated decision of migrating. So they are based on political factors, environmental factors, social factors, personal factors, immigration policy, etc. Multiple factors. Among all factors, economic determinants are among major motivational determinants for people and families to leave their home countries. Obviously, change is not simple. Change is never simple. Sorry, looking at the chat. Are among economic determinants are factors that have some economic aspects and dimensions. So, as I said, change is always very difficult, and yet change continues to happen, and human beings, keep looking at bettering their life. So, low agricultural income, agricultural unemployment, underemployment are major factors in driving migrants. Typically, the story of Punjab and Haryana, where there's a lot of migration which has been happening with more job prospects in a vast number of developing countries, economic factors that influence international migration, improve potential for increased earning, income and wage, better employment, higher standard of living, more comfortable safety nets, among others. Human being has this innate desire for bettering their lot. That bettering could also be a perceived desire in terms of their perceived current state, but always there is this desire for bettering. No human being works with a state which says that I am fine. It doesn't work. So, in fact, we tend to give this definition, oh, these people do not want to work, that's why they beg, is a wrong, statement or a wrong understanding of the situation because they don't have skill. A lot of people do not have skill, or they have not bettered their skill, or they have felt constrained in bettering their skill, and so on and so forth. But every human being works for a betterment of life. Their sense of economic migration determinants is straightforward. Individual being rational human beings make decisions based on their own self-interest in order to maximize efficiency and earning. Every human being works that way because that's how the we are socialized as we grow up, and they frequently conduct cost benefit analysis prior to make. And all of us, irrespective of the fact we might not take a pen and a paper to determine cost benefit, we all keep making cost benefit based uh, when we take a decision. Undocumented migrants make up a large portion of migrant population, and the primary motivation to migrate is economic. So inevitably, these statements are economic oriented, though, as I said, economics is just one of the factors. There are other factors. Migration in turn has a significant impact on country's economy. Growth and development leads to economic growth, typically adds to development of human capital in receiving nation, accounts for a significant portion of the country's GDP. And this statement also is absolutely wrong, that migration, does not contribute to a country. Every migration adds to a country. Remember, whenever people come, they indulge in economic activity. Whenever when we are there, every day of our life is indulging in economic activity in terms of buying food grain, consuming food grain, or doing whatever. Every activity involves economics. Economic migration decisions are influenced by a variety of macro and microeconomic factors. We will see that. What are those? Hmm. Oh, hang on. Stocks and flows of migrants, wage relates rates in destination and origin country. I was seeing Saudi Arabia Riyal is 22 rupees to a rupee. I mean, 1 Saudi Riyal is 22 rupees. So any person who migrates for work to Saudi Arabia and gets the standard, wage rates, that money is, when it comes to India's remittances, becomes much higher. Economic opportunities in both origin and destination countries, inflation in host and origin countries, exchange rates and currencies, exchange rates in destination and host countries, ability to transfer fund. So all these factors, are economic determinants. So let's look at each factor, the sub factors that we are talking about. Income differentiation and imperfections in developing economy. Increased household income and liquidity are most immediate and net benefits of migration. That's why a whole lot of and if you see, a whole lot of rural migration to urban areas also happens in the same way. Though they do not, when a migration happens from rural to urban areas, they don't get the benefit of exchange rates or anything of that sort. However, they are able to get a job, they are able to earn a living, and we studied about the fact that a lot of migration to the Gulf countries happened. First, it happened from down south. Then even the northern states were sending migrants. And the fact is, when these people go and get a job, and the convertibility and the remittance really help the households. Income disparity between home and host nation, major factor in deciding whether or not to migrate. So there are these push and pull factors. Every time there are push and pull factors. So what are the push factors? Push factors are poverty, high taxes, high unemployment, overpopulation. Then there are non-economic factors like crime, corruption, environment, famine, pandemics. And then there are pull factors. Demand for labor, higher wages, welfare benefits, good healthcare and education system. And inevitably, a very interesting thing happens is uh, healthcare, education, irrespective of the class, caste, or anything, is a major factor in terms of pulling people to migrate. Technology, low cost of living. So, last class, there was somebody asking a question about why we are seeing all these illegal or undocumented migration from a forward state like Gujarat. The point again is the fact that we the per capita when we look at per capita income and look at averages, everybody may not have the same income. They may not have employment, and again, when we say a forward state is based on GDP. GDP does not mean there is a high quality of living. Human index, we will see about human development index, HDI, whether what is that? That is also very important. So these are, economic and non-economic push and pull factors. Even a pull factor like property rights, law and order, amenities, that becomes a pull factor. So, when we look at the economic theories, dependency theory, Marxist theory, world systems theory sees migration as a result of global capitalism. Again, a lot of theories, when they try and explain things, they tend to veer towards economic side because it's much easier. Economics is numbers. It's much easier to explain things, and that's why the numbers are easily put forward. Migration is seen as a process that caters to the requirement and interest of major multinational corporation and capitalists. So all these theories talk about the interest of major multinational corporation and capitalists. And then there is something called a dual labor market theory, opines that migration is mainly driven by permanent demand of cheap labor. We see that in inside the country when we have cheap labor coming from rural areas into urban areas, migrant labor from low and developing economies. So the similar thing can happen inside the country. We see that all the time when there is migration happening from rural areas and all are pushed into the urban area. That and a very easy way to figure that out is to go if you are in a city, go into and find out how many labor chalks does your city have? And try and see the population which is coming to that labor chalk. Labor chalk is the chalk where daily wagers, come and sit and are picked up for daily wage work. So, for example, I live in Gurgaon. There is a very close to my house. There is a labor chalk, and I have seen the quantity or the number of people rise every year, and the diversity of people who are coming in. So a lot of people from Rajasthan come to the labor chalk, which is very close to my place. But now I'm seeing a lot of people from UP, Bihar, MP. I was very surprised to see in multiple buses which go to MP every day from a particular location. What actually is intellectual property rights, also part of migration subject, and though a chapter is there in the course, I'm unable to understand property. Okay, who's going to explain intellectual property rights to Sanjeev Kumar? Devragya?
Yes, sir. I can try doing that.
Try.
Okay. So when we talk about intellectual property rights, or the intellectual property law, they basically cater to the trademarks and what else? The patents.
So Sanjeev,
So
inevitably, when we talk about creativity, the
yeah.
creativity is a property of the creator. So, for example, if you are an artist, your the art that you create will be your property, and inevitably when it's your property you have a right to that property, and if somebody takes that property or that particular property and does not pay you or give you credit, then that person is contravening your intellectual property right. Sanjeev? Sanjeev, okay. Similarly, if a company is producing a product, or let's say if a pharmacy is producing a medicine, or a process, all these process products or anything are intellectual property rights of that particular organization, company, individual. And there are particular laws by which otherwise anybody can pick up any product from any. It's something like this: when you have a house or you have a car, that is your property, but that's a material property. But your talent, your ideas, or your ideas or talent produces a product that comes under intellectual property. Sanjeev?
Sir, I would just like to add, I think it's easier that way.
Please,
We
please.
just had a case of the chicken tikka masala controversy where two restaurants in Delhi claimed you know, where it originated from, but basically it's the national dish of, I think, Ireland or Scotland. I'm
Okay,
just confused in that.
okay,
So they said, okay, it's from our restaurant, and the other one said it's from our restaurant.
okay,
But basically it's from Ireland.
okay. So Dev Pragya is hasn't had a lunch and she came up with the chicken tikka example. Sanjeev, okay, great. Sanjeev, you can also Google it in case you still are able to you still have a problem. You can email it to me. Okay, Ashim likes that. Great. Chicken tikka was a great example. And it's kind of suddenly I also want to eat chicken tikka right now. Okay, let's carry on with economic theories.
Hello, sir.
Ha, who's there?
Sir, Kalpana here. I think the same controversy is related to the Rasagulla also. Like
Absolutely.
Oriya people and Bengali people are also
Bengalis and
singing the
Orias. Absolutely, absolutely. So see, again, as I said, these are intellectual property. These are individual properties in terms of the idea, or in terms of the product, or in terms of the process. And there are laws as to how you do it. And Sanjeev will Google the rest. And if there is a problem, we'll talk about it. Sanjeev, you can email it to me, or you can ask it in the group. You guys are on WhatsApp. As I said, I am not on WhatsApp. I don't use WhatsApp. I am on Signal and Telegram. So, in fact, in case somebody wants to contact me, this is my number. As I said, I'm not on WhatsApp. I'm on Signal and Telegram. So if you are on Signal and Telegram, you can contact me on this. Okay. Demand of cheap labor, dual labor market theory. These jobs are often shunned by native workers due to social status and prestige issue, and often undertaken by migrant workers. So inevitably, the migrant workers and the migrants have a very important role in the host country. So and typically that the identity politics, a lot of countries are looking at identity politics, where they feel that the migrants are a security nightmare. They are taking jobs. They are hurting the economy. Is actually not true. There are other reasons to it. So another reason is deprivation. More often than not, deprivation is a very subjective factor. Like all the countries, Ashim, today, if you see, there is a new prime minister of, I think, Netherlands, who has gone after migrants. US, it's a common topic, and yet we will see how these countries benefit from migration. In fact, the whole Western economy is driven by migration. If you see, most of the high-end jobs in terms of IT, in terms of research, in the US are driven by the Asians and South Asians, Indians and Chinese. And for all their talk and rhetoric against immigrants, the low-end jobs are done by the Central Americans and the Mexicans, and the high-end jobs are done by the Indians and the Chinese. You see all Fortune 500 companies or the Fortune 50 companies, Indians and Chinese. So these countries will, for all their political rhetoric, the migrants are adding a lot, and we will see that. I have an example. Okay, so deprivation is something that is perceived because migration is a choice. People are choiced by influenced by the degree of pleasure or deprivation. I might perceive I am deprived, but I may not. But again, as I said, these are rational decisions, or these are logical decisions. Stark argues that minimizing relative deprivation rather than maximizing of absolute wealth drives migrant decision. I feel that I'm deprived and I can do better. And that will, push me to either migrate or do something. So, in fact, a lot of times, the rural to urban migration is because of deprivation, because somehow they feel their life will improve in the urban areas, what they do not have it in the rural areas. And more often than not, it's a perceived thing, because in urban areas, it is more ghettoized. In rural areas, they have a better quality of life. Migration is a risk and income diversification strategies utilized by rural households in low-income countries. Migration is difficult to explain in a neoclassical framework. Let's forget this. Aside from income gaps and inequalities, imperfection in a variety of markets such as labor, capital, and insurance is another important economic factor. Residents of rich countries are commonly supplied with unemployment insurance and benefits, whereas inhabitants of developing and in low-income countries. During COVID, people in, let's say, US and Canada got doles out of the government. In India, we did not. So if I was staying in the US or Canada, I would get an allowance. For a migrant, that becomes a big thing. And as Swadesh was telling, for example, in the Gulf, also in India, there is no unemployment allowance. In fact, there is this new party which is talking about unemployment allowance for youngsters, though the thing has not been implemented. For example, recently the Delhi budget put a provision of 1,000 rupees for women above 18 based on certain conditions. So, there were I came across this person who was asking me how will, they manage it in their budget. And I asked a counter question. I said, the taxes that we pay, what are those for? But this is a debate which can go on and on, because more often than not, there is a set of people who have been made to believe that, oh, this is a freebie, whereas in most advanced economies, this is a provision in terms of the welfare state. Uh, what happened? Dev Prakya? I'm in 2024, if there's any other group. For any doubt or any problem, Priyanka, you can get across to Dr. Sadanand Sahu, who's the coordinator, and then you can sort it out. Okay.
But I think Switzerland also gives an unemployment give wages to unemployed people as a part.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, a lot of the Western economies give, they give these welfare benefits. And, at the end of the day, one needs to understand, when you look at the economics, if you get a particular benefit, more often than not, either you will save it or you will spend it. And both ways, the government benefits. Because if you save it, that saving goes towards utilizing that money for welfareism. And if you spend it, it goes towards GDP and the economic growth. Uh, Again, when we say a higher tax rate, on what basis, I do not know. I do not have a comparatives, Ashim, between their taxes and our taxes.
Sir, I think that it's like that, like most of the Western economies, I think they have a less fiscal deficit and a good, for example, sir, Switzerland earns a lot of money through tourism. So that's why, as a part of their welfare policy, they can afford to give wages to unemployed people.
Absolutely. So obviously it is built into the larger way these countries calculate their GDP or run their economics. Priyanka is saying MP in Chhattisgarh announced and implemented a welfare program. I do not know whether they have been able to do it, because most states seem to have a deficit in their budgets. And more often than not, in a democratic system, there is a certain amount of popular politics which has been happening, right? For example, in India, right from independence. Whether it's good or bad is a different setup altogether, because inevitably democracy involves political parties. Political parties want, to win election by giving out doles, which is fine. Now, how this works out in the larger economics, we will have to see. But inevitably, welfareism is a very important component of any democracy, especially all developed countries have welfareism as a common, point. So that becomes a very important part when a person is deciding to migrate. Aside from income gaps, inequalities, imperfection in market, residents of rich countries common supplied with unemployment insurance benefits, whereas developing countries not. Then there is a cost benefit analysis. The family as a whole determines or not whether the member of the household will migrate. More often than not, a lot of times, especially when we look at our rural areas, they don't have a choice. The cost benefit analysis clearly tells them that they do not have land, the agriculture is non-remunerative, there are not enough industries or jobs, so the guy has no choice but to come to the urban areas. For example, I have this vegetable vendor who comes to sell me vegetables in the morning. Like due to Manrega social pension, some rural do not want to work for wages. See, inevitably, this is a cost benefit analysis. So if I am able to, earn money in Manrega, and the work is simple, maybe I'm not looking at that aspiration. See, again, every person is not driven by the same aspiration, or is driven by the same set of factors which other people are. So, Ashin, we have to look at those things also. More often than not, as I said, every person wants to improve their lot, but again, in that, one has to look at the perceived deprivation one feels. So there are a lot of factors. It's not as simple as that, that, this is there and hence this. It does not work that way. That causation more often than not does not happen. There are other factors. So family as a whole determines whether a person will migrate. Have many Indians said to condition that they are not even able to pay salaries to their employees. Kanga, the concept of freebies, again, as I said, more often than not, in a democracy where there are political parties, and this concept of freebies, for example, there were freebies down south where they would give TVs and all kinds of appliances during elections. Those concepts also have changed over a period of time. So, for example, when the Delhi government or the Aam Aadmi Party initially, when they were fighting for Delhi state elections, had 20 kiloliters water free in their manifesto, it was a very interesting, statement, because what they said, which was the fine print, that the 20 kiloliters of water would be free per family, provided each family put a working water meter in their house. In fact, how this whole politics came about was the fact that most people in Delhi had bypassed their water meters, and inevitably, that was, a tax evasion by a lot of families. So with this was a very smart move, actually, a smart governance move, a smart political move, that those 20 kiloliters of water, and their premise was that water is an essential element for each family or each person. And when we give this water free, we need you to put a working meter. And then this condition is, if you exceed 20 kiloliters, then the charges will be done on regular charges. In fact, we saw that after they did this, their revenue increased, which similarly happened with free electricity in Delhi, 250 units of free electricity. However, as I said, uh, what is freebie? How does it work? How does it work in the larger economic is a bigger debate. More often than not, it's not as simple as, the political rhetoric comes out to be. And inevitably, we have seen every political party wants to attract voters to be able to win election, because at the end of the day, politics is about winning elections. So whether how does it work in the longer term? For example, look at the fact. Another thing. Look at the fact, Angad. When the governments of a state write off loans for industrialists, isn't that a freebie? That also is considered freebie. International Fine also conscious. Yes, absolutely. Asim, so this thing about economics, about politics, about democracy, about political parties has to work out. It's a negotiation, and inevitably, more often than not, as I said, this needs a larger debate as to what is a freebie, what is not a freebie. And again, as I said, if we look at it as an argument, when you are looking at giving subsidies or you are giving interest-free loans to industrialists, isn't that a freebie? But we do not consider that a freebie. We consider welfareism as a freebie. That needs a larger debate. So there are many more factors than as simple as calling it a freebie. Though you are absolutely right, freebies were and are. So, for example, look at the fact uh, when the gas prices were increased and the international gas prices came down, LPG prices came down. The finance minister said that she could not bring the prices down because of various factors. And then the prime minister announces 100 rupees cut in the gas prices on Women's Day. Now, isn't that a freebie? Uh, there are all kinds of argument in this. Why rural people or common people suffer for not paying huge loan amount? Absolutely. So there are a lot many factors. See, again, remember the fact, Asim, one has to hang on. One has to look at the fact that uh, in a democracy, the politics is driven by votes. So, who is able to push or lobby their interest becomes very important. And in fact, over a period of time, we have always seen the middle class seems to be most complaining because, irrespective of the fact that they are a huge number, whatever they want is not, exceeded to by political parties. That is because of the fact middle class does not hold sway or they are not able to have a heft in terms of political voting. So there are a lot many factors. We can talk about this later. Let's just finish this. Otherwise, we'll get into tangential stuff. Okay, hang on, where we were. Okay, cost benefit analysis. According to literature, leads in a positive net return to migration for individuals. Was mentioned by neoclassical theories such as Thad. I think that's how we pronounce. This method considered migration to be an investment decision and the result of, and that is one of the reasons why when migration is considered an investment decision, people take heavy loans. In fact, there was a study which came in Punjab where the average Punjabi family was heavily into debt for to be able to send people abroad. People were taking loans and putting their land as collateral. It is a cost benefit analysis. At a macro level, neoclassic explains migration as a regional and geographical disparities with labor supply is based on migrants' expected income rather than their actual. There's a lot of perception in all these, how I treat facts and figures. Then there is, of course, the human development. Human development is often not up to required standards in low-income countries. HDI is calculated in terms of life expectancy, predicted years of schooling, mean years of schooling, and GNP. Though now there is something called a happiness index, which also is considered in terms of migration. Free labor circulation is a very important thing where people can, migrant workers should have a free mobility to look for job in destination nations, allocative efficacy of labor markets enhanced by free labor mobility. Whenever there is no free labor circulation, people will not go to that place. Then there is a migration cost. How much are you paying for migration, which comes in the cost benefit analysis? There is a cost to travel. There's a visa fee. There is there is a resident permit, housing cost, and so on and so forth. And more often than not, that's why migrant networks come into the picture. So if there is already a network existing, then migrating becomes easier. So there is a migration cost. Then there is taxes and government safety net. For example, we were talking about Manrega can function both as a push and pull factor. So inevitably, if there is a place, let's say in the rural areas, if there is a state which is offering a better Manrega facility in terms of payment, in terms of work, people will migrate. For example, People from Bihar are migrating to Kerala, from Orissa are migrating to Kerala because there is work, they get paid. In fact, we saw this case study where Bihari workers and Oriya workers are, working in Kerala. For example, there was this story about how during Chhat Puja, a lot of factories and companies in Kerala shut down or reduce their production because the migrant workers leave. In a country like India, where income tax system is progressive, high skilled migration may be discouraged. That is why the reverse migration is not happening, because there is a progressive tax. Taxes need to be streamlined. Social insurance schemes and program affect migration decisions, civic facilities, healthcare. Transfers that are generous may attract migrants, and the programs are often referred as welfare magnets. So we have talked about that. Exchange rates, as I said, Saudi Riyal was 1 Saudi Riyal was equivalent to 22 rupees. That's why a lot of people go to the Gulf to work, because the rates are better. They are able to send remittances home. It plays a significant impact in deciding uh, um, strong currency in destination region. For example, dollar, the rupee devaluation with respect to dollar is having major, for people wanting to send their children out for studying, it becomes a major drain on their pocket, but for migration becomes a great thing. High unemployment in origin country as a push factor, recession, economic crisis, and other events affect migration decision. Recently, there's a spate of attacks on Indian students. In fact, a lot of Indian students have been killed in the US. That would be a factor which will affect the students to go to US. In fact, there is a lot of Indian students who are going to UAE for education. So all these, and then the exchange rates, if there is a rupee dollar exchange rate adversely affecting rupee, people will look at alternate places to go. Immigration policy, two scenarios where immigration policies have little or no impact. If there is a reverse migration or a return migration, immigration policy have no effect. Receiving country's government believes that migration is advantageous to the country. And inevitably, as we have always found out, the Western governments need immigrants. Irrespective of their politics, they need immigrants. So whatever their political rhetoric, we see that they keep having immigrants coming in. Also, a few days before, Indians were trapped in Russia. Absolutely. So there were these people from Punjab and Haryana who were taken as labor to to Russia, and they were made to fight. In fact, one person lost his life. Economists broadly agree political backlash against immigration in many countries is not economically rational. Strong evidence supports immigration. So, for example, I have a story I will show you. Case for migration is very simple. Case for markets in general, people make a decision based on their economic self-interest. They will maximize efficiency. Because inevitably, whatever money that you get or whatever money that you earn, you will spend. Markets are good at allocating resources, including human resources, is widely shared among economists. Hang on. Where is that story? In fact, this is a story in Newsweek. If you notice, immigrants added 2 trillion of US GDP in 2016. 2 trillion. For all the US politics, lashing out at immigrants, and 458.7 billion to state, local, and federal taxes in 2018. After they spent billions of dollars in taxes, immigrants were left with 1.2 trillion in spending power. And that is why the Indian Americans are a major diaspora in the US. So more often than not, irrespective of the political rhetoric, migrants add to a host country in various ways. And this is a 2023 article. And whether the immigrant is legal or undocumented, or what is called illegal, they contribute the same because inevitably nobody hoards money. The money is either remitted back or is spent, and more often than not, it is spent. So let's sum up. Migration is a complex issue. 2030 agenda for contribution of migrants to sustain. Oh, this is an old, I think, from the last thing I picked up. Okay, there are some. Sorry, this slide was an wrong slide. Non-economic factors. Let's look at some of the non-economic factors. Ability, well-being, optimism, aspiration, and risk tolerance are all factors. These are non-economic factors. In fact, risk tolerance becomes a very important factor for migration because inevitably there's a risk involved. You're going to a new culture, a new place. You do not know what is the outcome. Research has discovered a link between aggregate well-being, happiness, and migration flow. Aggregate happiness level in those countries rise, few people will migrate out. So inevitably, we need to see how much migration happens from Bhutan because Bhutan has the highest happiness index. These are non-economic factors. Optimism can also influence migration. For an optimistic person, the net benefit of migration may appear to be greater than for a pessimist person. Migrants are more hopeful than non-migrants, according to research. And inevitably, so when we come across all these people who are trying to illegally migrate, there was this case study of a plane which was brought down in the sense which was made to land in France, which contained almost 300 illegal migrants. There is this hope that they will get a better life. For that Gujarati couple which died between Canada-US border, it was a hope of entering US, a better life. Individuals are placed in settings that may have an influence on their physical and mental health as a result of migration, can make people more, and obviously it's a risk factor because migration process can make people more susceptible to illness due to natural or man-made disasters. We have talked about innate ability, ambition, risk aversion. Ambitious people migrate more than those compared with no ambition. Non-economic determinants are unseen, and that is why most arguments are economic because they are numbers. You can calculate, you can put it around. Let's sum up. Economic determinants are influenced by a variety of things. Filing labor shortages, purchase goods, paying taxes, immigrants contribute to the growth of economy. More people working, productivity grows. Both push and pull factors must be considered when creating immigration schemes and regulations. Policies must be established with the purpose in mind, whether the goal is to assist or restrict migration. All the factors that influence migration are vital and interconnected. Impossible to say which economic issue matters most. Risk and income diversity, an insurance mechanism, or a distress movement, all migration involves economic features and objectives. Okay. And then there are some references. You can check it on the units. And let me stop it and let me start my video. Okay, hi. In case there is any questions, Ashim, all PPTs go on to YouTube. However, in case you still want my PPT, just send me a mail. I'm sharing my email ID. Send me a mail. I'll send you the PPT.
Sir, I would like to add one more thing
Please,
to
Naman. Please, Naman.
non-economic factors. Sir, I think like as you mentioned about that Gujarati couple who died crossing the border. So like many people from Gujarat migrate to US, and like it has become a kind of social status also. Uh, for example, sir, like many of my friends, they had gone to Canada to pursue higher education. So, like they think that, like I have personally observed that many people think like it's a kind of like social status also if you migrate to these Western countries to pursue higher education and to search for jobs. and like this place in Gujarat from which this couple had migrated. So like those people used to get a lot of dowries who migrated to US and established and like they were living in the US, and like so like I think like there is a social construction also which is a non-economic factor uh, for migration.
For a degree, are you able to hear me? It says my internet is unstable. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, now your
O-
voice is audible.
Okay. Naman, you need to also understand that social construct of a social higher status is also cost benefit analysis. A lot of times, a lot of people go abroad for a degree because that allows them to get a better job or a high paying job. Naman? So it has an economic basis to it.
Yeah, yes, sir, definitely that is one of the aspect.
Absolutely. And this has always been there. See, inevitably, that's what we talked about. More often than not, every decision making or every decision taken by an individual or a family has a cost benefit analysis. And there are obviously economic factors and there are non-economic factors which also might have a basis or an economic basis to it. Because more often than not, remember, when we are trying to better our life, money becomes a factor. Naman?
Yes, sir. Sir, but like one thing is there, like most of the students who migrate to the West for higher education, sir, most of them are from affluent families. And like, sir, like I think that this is a possible situation. Like there are very few students who, with the help of scholarship and who belong to underprivileged backgrounds, are able to migrate to the West for higher education.
Naman, you will be very surprised to know that all the children of the Ambani and the Adani family have taken their degrees from Ivy League universities.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Now
sir.
the point is, remember, it's a social construct.
Yes, sir.
So being a student from Princeton and being a student from Delhi University has a different hierarchy in terms of social, privileges.
Definitely, sir.
So you see, at the end of the day, that also has a cost benefit analysis and there is economics behind it. So tomorrow, if somebody says that this boy whose pre-wedding had 1,000 crore spent on him is he's there because of his father, then there is a counter argument to say that he's from this Ivy University. That's a cost benefit analysis. Naman?
Yes, sir.
So inevitably all these things are linked, and as I said, in typical everyday decisions, there is nothing deterministic. There are multiple factors how things work out, but economics is a very easy way to put out because it's done with numbers. Non-economic, we cannot quantify it. So that
Yes,
is
sir.
why the economic theory becomes much more easily put forward, and everybody runs with that theory. There are a lot of factors, and economics, behind all factors, there is certain amount of economics which works.
Yes, sir. Sir, but this is one of the factor which I think there is a possibility to quantify if you do a socio-economic survey of all the students who are possibly migrating for higher education to other countries.
Possible, possible. Possible. If there is a research which comes out, there is a possibility. But again, as I said, this I have seen. So, for example, when I passed out, most of my batchmates went abroad. I didn't for various reasons. A lot of them have permanently become residents of the countries they went into. Some have come back. More often than not, it was again economics, though there were other factors like parents or culture or this and that, but at the end of the day there's a cost benefit analysis. Okay, So can you suggest any journal or magazine which is dedication to migration and diaspora? Ashim, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. UN ODC documents online. You go on the Migration and Diaspora International Organization for Migration. Web has a full website. In fact, Kangat, if you can share that link with Asim, the that migration website that I sent you, whoever emails I have, I keep sending out whatever information I get. So, or maybe Kangat, if you can put it in the group, these guys can also see there was this particular website, migration website that I came across. I shared it. So if you, Ashim, send me a mail, I can forward you that link. But there are lots of information, journals and magazines available online. You can go through that. And anytime you have a problem, you can email it to me. And again, as I said, I'm sorry, I'm not on WhatsApp. I decided not to be on WhatsApp. I'm on Signal and Telegram as a messaging app. You can connect me via there. Priyanka, you have to send me. I don't have any group. You can send me an email and I can keep, sending you when I send it to others. That's my email ID. I don't have a particular group, but when more students will come, I'll make a group. But I keep sending to whoever writes to me on my email. Otherwise, Priyanka, when you are a part of the WhatsApp group, I think a lot of information gets shared on WhatsApp. Is shared on WhatsApp. You can do it accordingly. Okay. Any other question? Hang on. There was. Afra, Parveen, any questions? You are coming for the first time. Afra, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, perfect. So if there are no questions, then we have already reached the end of the class. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a nice week ahead. I'll see you next Saturday between 3 and 4, and we will, do uh, the next unit 6, and take it on from there. So to you, there is a possibility of discussion, displaced people of POG, and how their linkage can be leveraged by, when you say POJK, what does that mean?
Sir, I
Vikas,
think he's talking about Pakistan occupied Kashmir.
Pakistan occupied JNK. Is there a possibility of discussion, displaced people of POJK and how their linkage? Uh,
I can understand so that it is out of the scope of this course,
I
but there
have.
is this.
I'm sure they would be. I have no idea about. Maybe let me just read up about
I said there is
what.
a
Tell me,
there is
Vikas.
a it is 183rd parliamentary committee report, sir, which I can share with the group. Actually,
Okay,
sir, why I want to talk about this instance this issue is because of late we have been speaking about reintegration of POJK with India.
okay,
POJK is not only just a part of is piece of land; it is people also. If we integrate
okay.
POJK, the integration of POJK will involve integration of residents of POJK with India, and
Which
these
would
people,
which would
which
involve India and Pakistan to talk to each other.
maybe talk to each other or like there are different means which like militarily means are also there, sir. So,
Vikas,
but this people, the people of POJK, they who were displaced to India are a connect which we can exploit to connect with
Okay,
the
okay. Let
populace.
me let me
So that is
just
what I.
read. Let me just read about the territories of JNK, which are under Pakistan, which is administered by Pakistan. Let me read about them. Obviously, there is not much information which comes out in the public domain. Let me just read about them. Maybe if there is something, we will talk about it next time.
Sir,
Vikas?
Thank you, sir.
I would
Thank you,
also
sir.
like to add,
Ha,
uh,
Naman.
sir, like there was a speech of Ajit Doval, like he was saying that as a warning to Pakistan that if you do one more like Pulwama, then you will lose Balochistan. So
No,
like
Naman,
it's totally about the Baloch.
Political rhetoric. Let's leave political rhetoric. It's we as an academic and as a as an academic and scholarly class, let's keep the political rhetoric because
Yes, sir.
worldwide there is a lot of, as I said, US talks a lot of political rhetoric against immigrants, migrants, building a wall, this and that. And we know the fact that there are many more undocumented immigrants in the US and they are contributing immensely to the US economy. Let's try and not get in the political rhetoric because that
Yes, sir.
vitiates, because everybody has a strong opinion on various sides.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And as I said, academics, for people who have joined for the first time, academics and scholarship is about various perspectives and points of view. We do not try and talk about right, because there's in the real world, the right and wrong are very subjective. The
Yes, sir.
good and bad are equally subjective. So let's look
Yes,
at
sir.
perspectives. If there is, in terms of displacement, in terms of migration, in terms of diaspora, if there are some perspectives we can share that adds on to various people's knowledge. Otherwise, we can easily get tripped onto various, rhetorics and politics, and it does not help in any which way.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Okay?
yes, sir, definitely, sir. I
Huh.
definitely agree with you. But like I was saying, I think it's like about the Baloch part, the Balochistan part of like that area where you know
Understandable, understandable.
that
See,
Vikas is talking about.
again, this is geopolitics, which works out how
Uh,
this is working out. Let's park it.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll take
Yeah.
Vikas and I'll read about this, Pakistan administered JNK. How is it? Let me see if I can get some information. If there is, we can, share in terms of how the perception is. We'll keep it. Otherwise, let's keep to the units and the syllabus and talk it, offline rather than on a class forum, because every people are joining, or various people take out their time, join a class to get more information about the particular unit because they like to do a course and look at a career or whatever in this. Okay.
All right, sir.
Okay, great. Have a nice weekend. See you next Saturday, 3 o'clock. Bye bye, guys.